What's up everybody, welcome to General Hospital MV, my GH After Show. This week was the nurses ball, so let's get into it. Alright, well the nurses ball actually began on Tuesday, so before we get into all the performances and all the drama that ensued, let's talk about Monday's episode. Monday's episode started right where Friday's episode left off with the reveal of Ava's portrait. It turns out that her portrait was defaced. There was a gorilla over Ava's mug and the CO77X trademark of Franco's on the side of it. And as much as I'd like to think it was Charlotte, I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that Nicholas was the culprit. Elizabeth, on the other hand, thinks that it's Ava who did this for the buzz. Man, Elizabeth is really struggling with the fact that Ava and Franco are both super okay with using Franco's serial killing past to make a little dough in the present day. I already went on a tangent about this last week. Elizabeth, I'll just summarize it again. You knew who the man was when you married him. If you cannot accept his past, then you need to move on and find yourself a new man. Apparently Lulu thought it would be a really great idea to have a loud, open conversation in the Cassadine living room about Nicholas and Spencer's plan to trick Ava out of their inheritance. And of course Ava overheard this, and she was pissed. She confronts Nicholas, and the two of them share a steamy, angry, passionate, off-screen kiss. Oh, 2020. Now elsewhere in Port Charles, Chase and Finn weighed the pros and cons of having their father be at Anna and Finn's wedding, and Chase surprisingly agreed with him, but only because he actually didn't tell his father that he and Willow broke up and that Willow was with Michael now. What can you do? Speaking of Michael, Valentine is gloating all around town about how he has control of ELQ, and literally only he's happy about it. Carly had no problem telling him that Michael will take back the company. Brook Lynn just wants him to follow through with his plan to make her a successful singer because she's already lost so much because of him already. Alright, now that we've gotten Monday out of the way, let's talk about the 2020 Nurses Ball. Now I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that most of us were pretty intrigued on how exactly they were going to pull this off. Apparently, Carly thought it would be a great idea to turn this year's Nurses Ball into a telethon where people could call in and donate money to frontline workers such as nurses so that they have proper protective equipment. You know, just in case there's like a pandemic taking over the world and the leaders of the country don't provide enough for them to actually be safe. But that probably would never happen in real life. Anyway, for those of you worried about the show changing the intent of the Nurses Ball, do not worry, that's not what happened. They still made it about AIDS awareness and AIDS charities. This is how it works. Anyone that bought tickets to the Nurses Ball, that money was being donated to the AIDS charities, but instead of being in the audience, the people that bought tickets were answering phone calls in separate conference rooms throughout the Metro Court. Ergo, no audience, just the camera and the stage. I gotta give my props to the show's writers and producers, everyone that pulled this off, because it couldn't have been easy to have to change so much about the Nurses Ball. I mean, obviously we didn't get an opening number by the nurses, but we still got performances, and I am here to tell you my favorites from best to worst. Let's begin. My number one performance, hands down, were the kids, Cameron, Trina, and Jocelyn. They did this really cute number, and it was a really cute set with like a campground vibe. Cameron was on the acoustic guitar, Jocelyn and Trina were sitting on logs and rocks and singing as well. It was so cute, and it was like a consolation prize for the summer that we were probably supposed to see with these kids. The only question was, where was Dev? They didn't really give an explanation, so in my head I'm like, well, they probably don't want to shed a spotlight on Dev given on how he ended up in the country, so it's forgivable, I guess. But bring him back soon. In second place, and I hate to admit this, but Valentine Cassadine. I mean, I do not like the character, but I can't deny that James Patrick Stewart is talented, because he is. He's got a beautiful voice and he plays the piano, and it was a really good performance. The only thing I hated about it was Nina constantly making goo-goo eyes at him. Listen, Nina, you do not need to be with the male equivalent of Nelle. And for those of you who want to argue this point with me, let me ask you a few questions. Number one, does Valentine act like he is entitled to anything and everything he wants because he had a shitty upbringing? Number two, has Valentine ever tried to kill someone in order to get their money? Number three, has he ever used his kids or perhaps Nina's kids in a game of lies to get what he wants? Number four, does Valentine lie as much as he breathes? You see, male, Nelle, Benson. Now, the only difference between he and Nelle is that he has connections, so I wouldn't wish him upon anyone. Imagine having Nelle as a daughter and Valentine as a husband. Yikes. Alright, I apologize. Let's get back to the performances. My third favorite was Ned and Olivia. Honestly, anytime I get to see Eddie Main perform is a good day. Alright, now for the bottom of the crop. In fourth place, and I hate to do it, but the Nurse's closing number. Listen, I think that Epiphany and Deanne and Amy, they all have wonderful voices, but for some reason, the show seems to enjoy giving them songs that are completely out of their vocal range. Their solo lines were fine, but when they sang the chorus together, yikes. I actually feel so bad for Madison Malone, and for those of you wondering who, that's actually the other nurse that you guys didn't recognize. She's actually a singer, and her songs have been used on the show more than once in the past, and the song that the nurses sang was actually her song. Alright, in last place, I hate to do it, I'm so sorry Jacksonina, but your guys' performance was not my thing. I mean, I know that Ingo has dance experience because he was on Dancing with the Stars, but oh, that was just a mess of a dance routine. It was, I wanted to like it, I just couldn't like it. I thought it was so bad, I'm so sorry. Like, I can't do any better, I'm not gonna lie, but oof. That was hard to watch. I'm so sorry. You know what performance I would have put in number one, probably, if it actually got shown? Chase and Sasha's number. I can't believe they gave us an off-screen Chase performance. How rude. I'm mad about it. How dare you? Alright, now let's talk about the drama in between the performances. Nicholas and Ava are still playing a game of trying to break Elizabeth and Franco apart by worshipping the ground that they walk upon. And honestly, this game is confusing me a little bit. I can't tell if Nicholas is trying to get Ava to sleep with Franco, or if Nicholas is just trying to get Elizabeth to sleep with him. Like, I guess it's a win-win situation for Nick, unless he wants the money more. And Ava, she's just kind of praising Franco in front of Elizabeth to try and piss her off. At least now, both Elizabeth and Franco are aware that they are just pawns in a game that they do not want to play, but the two of them are still clashing over who they think the mastermind is. Spoiler alert. It's both of them. Let's talk about Maxie and Peter. This was supposed to be a big night for Maxie with the launch of Deception, and it ended up being a big night for Maxie in a completely different way. Lulu accidentally turned Maxie's mic pack on while they were backstage talking about Maxie's pregnancy, and the entire town of Port Charles heard it, including Peter himself, and Mac, and Anna, and Robert, and Spinelli all heard the news. Yikes. Now, earlier in the night, Spinelli actually had a conversation with Nelle about Shiloh and mentioned Shiloh and Peter's actual history. She actually told the truth, but if Spinelli were to tell Maxie tonight, it would just look like an attempt to try to persuade her to get away from Peter. And she wouldn't be receptive to that. You know she wouldn't. To be quite frank though, if Spinelli told anyone that Nelle told him anything, they would just be like, oh, Nelle told you this. Bull. Ned and Olivia are still fighting about Ned's treatment towards Brook Lynn. It's really causing a strain in their relationship because of how vulnerable Olivia is towards Dante at the moment. And unfortunately for Ned, Robert is still her shoulder to lean on, and Robert just managed to track down Dante in Geneva and is able to sneak her in to see Dante. Unfortunately, when he's able to do that, Ned can't be a part of it. So this should be interesting. But Ned's got his hands full at the moment. Let's talk about Brook Lynn. Apparently, Brook Lynn has stage fright. Yes, the same Brook Lynn we've seen perform countless times before without losing her cool, even slightly, whose narrative used to be that she would be touring with Lois around London and having a successful music career, and now this new narrative says that she's a struggling musician who's never made it in her life, who has stage fright. Huh? Dusty managed to calm Brook Lynn's nerves, and she mistook that as a reason to give him a big old kiss with unique camera angles that make it just look like they kissed when they didn't actually. Lulu walked in on it and surprisingly stayed pretty calm about it. Lulu, I'm impressed. You're kind of growing as a person finally. Brook Lynn was pretty angry that Dustin told her that he has no feelings for her, and she was determined to give the best performance of her life out there. Unfortunately, we'll never get to see it. Brook Lynn overheard Nelle talking on the phone to Julian about how they were going to kidnap Wiley and that she would meet him after her performance at the nurse's ball because she has that tracking device in his toy. She heard everything, and instead of just sneaking away to call the police and warn them and warn Monica, she decides to confront Nelle, thus giving Nelle the opportunity to slit her throat. I guarantee you that if Brook Lynn survives this, she will never be able to sing again because the show can't be bothered to hire someone that can actually sing to play Brook Lynn, even though that is literally what the character has always been about since the moment we've seen her. It's so frustrating. However, the temporary recast, she actually could sing. Apparently she has a band of her own, but you know, they planned this out before they had to recast her. So that's why I'm guessing this is the story, but I'm so mad about it. I'm so mad about it. Now, obviously, Ned was pretty devastated to learn that his daughter was attacked. I guess you'll think twice about putting a company before your child, Ned. Sadly, Nelle's plan was already put in motion. Julian snuck into the Quartermain mansion, chloroformed Monica, went upstairs and stole Wiley. By the way, I have to give props to the show. They clearly filmed the baby that plays Wiley from an iPhone, probably at the real mom's house, and then just put that in there. Clever way to keep the kids off the set. But yeah, Julian grabs Wiley, takes him out of the house, goes to the docks, and then he starts to feel guilty. So he seems to have devised a plan to make sure that Nelle doesn't get the baby. We'll see how that goes. Last but certainly not least, Jordan snuck away from the nurse's ball early to meet up with a ghost on the docks. Just kidding, it's Taggart, and he's very much alive. Taggart has become unhinged, and he came back to town because he wants to murder Cyrus because, of course, everyone thinks he's dead, and he'll totally get away with it. But Jordan reminds him, hey, you have a daughter. If you do this, you can never see her again. And Taggart's like, oh, you're right. Jordan's like, let me handle this. Honestly, Taggart would probably handle it better. Better than Jordan, for sure. And better than Sonny and Jason, who apparently forgot how to mob. Anyway, what did you guys think of General Hospital this week? I have to again applaud the show's producers and writers for managing to pull off some kind of a nurse's ball this year. I mean, obviously they had to work around a lot of complicated things, but we still got one. And I'm glad that they didn't have to skip the tradition this year. The only thing that I worried about was that a lot of the cast were very affectionate towards each other and hugging and like smooching on the cheek and different things, and it gives me mad anxiety. I mean, I know that there are things that are going into play behind the scenes that we're probably not aware about, but like the proof is in the pudding, and there's clearly no camera tricks being used, and you know, I worry about the cast. They're here for our entertainment, and I don't want them getting sick. That's just the way that I feel about it. So to the GH cast and crew, please be careful. Please look after our actors. They're doing a wonderful job, and they're not showing any nervousness on screen, which is great. But you know, keep them safe. Anyway, comment below what your favorite Nurses Ball performance was this year, and if you like this video, give it a big old thumbs up, subscribe if you want to, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace out.